just for a moment. Stay here. Do not rush past this. There have been so many years when you kept moving simply because stopping felt more dangerous than continuing. So many mornings when you wrote Zola before your heart was ready. So many evenings when the silence of a room seemed larger than the room itself. And perhaps nobody ever truly noticed. Not because your life was invisible, but because you became so skilled at carrying yourself that people mistook your strength for ease. I know that story. I know the woman who learned how to smile while holding entire oceans inside her chest. I know the woman who became the one others leaned upon, the one who remembered birthdays, the one who checked on everyone else, the one who stayed strong after the phone stopped ringing, the one who kept walking after being disappointed one more time than she deserved. And before we go any further, I want you to hear something that should have been spoken to you long ago. You were never too much. Your tenderness was never the problem. Your depth was never the problem. Your willingness to love was never the problem. The problem was that some people were only capable of meeting a fraction of what you carried. And because they could not reach your depth, you slowly began questioning the value of the ocean itself. Stay a moment more. Dot, there is something waiting here for you. Not an answer, not a promise. Something gentler than that, a remembering. Because somewhere along the way, you became a stranger to parts of yourself. Not all at once. It happened quietly. The way evening enters a house. The way dusk slides through window blinds and stretches itself across the floor. The way shadows slowly occupy spaces nobody expected them to reach. That is how forgetting happens, not through catastrophe, through accumulation. 1,000 small moments. 1,000 small sacrifices. 1,000 times choosing everyone else before choosing yourself. And one day you looked around and realized you could describe everyone else's needs while struggling to remember your own. You became fluent in giving, yet uncertain in receiving. You became fluent in surviving, yet uncertain in resting. You became fluent in carrying, yet uncertain in being carried. And I think there were nights when even you could feel it. Nights when the house grew quiet, when the obligations finally stopped speaking, when the world loosened its grip for an hour. And there you were, alone with yourself, alone with thoughts that never quite reached language, alone with an ache that wasn't dramatic enough for anyone to see, but was real enough to change the shape of your life. Perhaps it arrived while holding a warm teacup, watching steam disappear into the air. Perhaps it arrived while hearing footsteps echo against tile floors. Perhaps it arrived while standing beside a window after sunset. Perhaps it arrived for no reason at all, only suddenly, a feeling, a question, a longing, a quiet wondering. Where did I go? Not physically, not socially, not professionally, soulfully. Where did the woman go who once felt alive inside her own life? And if that question has ever touched your heart, even briefly, then I want you to know something. You are not lost. You are buried beneath years of adaptation. There is a difference. Lost things disappear. Buried things remain. And what remains can be uncovered. What remains can return. I believe your soul has always known this. That is why hope never completely left you. Even when disappointment visited, even when loneliness lingered, even when love became complicated, even when trust became expensive, something inside you kept a small candle burning, a tiny light, a tiny knowing. a tiny refusal to completely surrender. You may have called it resilience. You may have called it faith. You may have called it stubbornness. I call it remembrance. Because deep within yourself, you never fully forgot who you were. You only became tired. And tiredness has a way of disguising truth. Stay here a little longer. There is something else I want you to see. The years you sometimes mourn are not empty years. I know there are moments you revisit, moments that seem unfinished. Relationships that ended without the closure your heart deserved. Words never spoken, affection never returned. Doors that closed while you were still standing in the doorway, I know. And yet when I look at those seasons, I do not see failure. I see formation. I see a soul becoming deeper than it was before. Not because suffering is beautiful. It isn't. But because you kept choosing softness in a world that repeatedly taught hardness. That matters more than you realize. The world often celebrates people who become tougher. But there is another kind of courage. The courage of remaining open. The courage of remaining kind. The courage of continuing to believe in goodness after life gives you reasons not to. You carry that courage, even now, especially now. And maybe that is why certain memories still visit you, not to hurt you, not to punish you, not to keep you trapped, but because they are unfinished pieces of understanding. Your soul still gathers meaning from them, like collecting fragments of light from old windows, like gathering seashells from a shore long after the tide has gone out. Nothing is wasted, not even the heartbreak, not even the waiting, not even the years that felt invisible. Life is stranger and more sacred than most people realize. There are patterns moving beneath events. There are threads connecting experiences that once seemed unrelated. There are lessons arriving through people who never stay. There are blessings hidden inside delays. There are meetings that happen years later than expected because the soul needed those years. Timing is rarely accidental. I know that can be difficult to trust, especially when you've waited, especially when you've hoped, especially when you've watched others receive what you quietly prayed for. But stay with me. The soul does not measure life the way fear does. Fear asks, when? The soul asks, who am I becoming? Fear asks, why hasn't it happened? The soul asks, what is being prepared? Fear stares at clocks. The soul listens for alignment. And perhaps one of the greatest acts of trust is believing that your story has not missed its moment, that your life is not behind, that your heart is not late, that your tenderness has not expired, that your capacity for wonder has not passed its season. Because none of those things are true. You are standing inside a becoming, even now, even reading these words. Something within you is remembering itself. The woman beneath the responsibilities. The woman beneath the disappointments. The woman beneath the roles. The woman beneath the armor. She is still there, waiting patiently, waiting lovingly, waiting without judgment. She has never abandoned you. She has only been waiting for you to turn toward her again. And perhaps that turning begins here, not with a dramatic transformation, not with a grand decision, simply with permission. Permission to stop fighting yourself. Permission to stop measuring your worth through what you provide. Permission to stop believing you must earn love through exhaustion. Permission to exist without constantly proving your value. Because your worth was never a reward. It was always your nature. Before achievement, before sacrifice, before heartbreak, before responsibility, before all of it, you were worthy, and you remain worthy now. Stay a moment more. There is so much still waiting for you. Not because life owes you something. But because your story is still unfolding, the pages ahead have not been written yet. The tenderness ahead has not been felt yet. The beauty ahead has not been seen yet. And somewhere beyond what you can currently imagine, something is quietly moving toward you, not rushing, not forcing, simply approaching in its own sacred timing, just as you are approaching yourself. And that perhaps is where every true journey begins, not by finding someone else, but by finding the woman who was always meant to walk beside you. The woman who has survived everything so far. The woman whose heart still knows how to hope. The woman whose soul still carries light. The woman who is reading these words right now. I am here. You are not walking alone. Something beautiful is on its way. Stay. Just a little longer. There are places inside your heart that have waited years to be seen without being rushed. Places that learned to stay quiet because nobody seemed to understand their language. Places that carried questions nobody could answer. And tonight, I want to walk with you into one of those places. Not to reopen old wounds, not to relive pain, but to honor what was never fully honored. Because there is a difference between remembering and returning. You do not have to return to what hurt you. But sometimes your soul asks you to remember, not the events, the meaning, the truth hidden beneath them, the gift hidden beneath them, the woman hidden beneath them. I think there are memories that still live softly inside you. Not because you cannot let them go, but because part of you is still trying to understand why they happened. You have carried losses that nobody saw. Not every loss arrives through death. Some losses arrive through distance. Some arrive through silence. Some arrive through promises that slowly dissolved. Some arrive through watching someone leave emotionally long before they leave physically. And perhaps the hardest losses are the ones that never receive a proper goodbye. The ones that simply fade. The ones that disappear without explanation. The ones that leave 1,000 unanswered questions standing in the doorway. I know what that does to a tender heart. It creates echoes. A conversation that never finishes. A story that never reaches its final sentence. A feeling that keeps circling because it was never given permission to land. And so many women carry those unfinished echoes for years. Not because they are weak, because they loved honestly. There is a sacred cost to loving honestly. People rarely talk about that. They celebrate love when it begins. They admire love when it looks beautiful. But very few speak about what happens when a sincere heart must continue after love changes shape. That journey is quieter, lonelier, more invisible. Yet it may be the most courageous journey of all. Because there were moments when your heart wanted certainty, and life offered mystery. There were moments when your heart wanted clarity, and life offered waiting. There were moments when your heart wanted someone to stay, and life offered lessons instead. I know how unfair that can feel, especially when you gave so much, especially when you tried so hard to understand, especially when you were willing to meet people halfway while they remained standing on the other side. Stay with me here. There is something important I want you to see. You have spent years wondering about people who could not fully choose you. But what if the deeper story was never about them? What if life was trying to teach you something about yourself? Not because they were unimportant. They mattered. They shaped you. They changed you. But perhaps their greatest purpose was not to become your destination. Perhaps their purpose was to become your mirror, because every disappointment revealed a truth. Every heartbreak illuminated something. Every ending uncovered a hidden lesson. Not immediately. Sometimes years later, sometimes only after enough tears had washed the illusion away. Sometimes only after enough silence allowed wisdom to speak. And wisdom speaks differently than pain. Pain asks, why wasn't I enough? Wisdom asks, why did I ever believe I wasn't? Pain asks, why did they leave? Wisdom asks, why did I abandon myself while trying to keep them? Pain focuses on absence. Wisdom reveals presence. The presence of your own value, the presence of your own beauty, the presence of your own soul. The weather is really nice and I hope you're having a wonderful day. It's not because you lack them, because you were busy looking elsewhere. Busy trying to solve mysteries that never belong to you. Busy trying to earn what should have been freely given, and while your attention was turned outward, your own heart waited patiently. Not angry, not resentful, simply waiting, the way a lamp waits in a dark room, the way dawn waits beyond the horizon, the way spring waits beneath winter soil, quietly, faithfully, certain that one day you would return. There is an image I keep seeing when I think of you. A hallway, long and silent, late afternoon light stretching across the floor. A place between where you have been and where you are going. And for years, perhaps, you have felt as though you were standing in that hallway. No longer the woman you once were. Not yet the woman you are becoming. Just somewhere in between. That in-between place can feel lonely. Because transformation rarely announces itself. Most people imagine growth as something dramatic, something visible, something obvious. But real transformation is usually much quieter. It happens while nobody is watching. It happens during ordinary days, ordinary mornings, ordinary evenings, ordinary moments that seem insignificant at the time. A woman makes a different choice. A woman speaks more kindly to herself. A woman stops chasing what keeps running. A woman begins listening to her own soul. And little by little, an entire life changes, not through force, through truth. Perhaps that is what has been happening within you. Perhaps the reason certain things no longer fit is because your soul has outgrown them. Perhaps the reason some connections faded is because they belonged to an earlier version of your journey. Perhaps the reason life has felt uncertain is because something deeper is being rearranged. I know uncertainty can feel uncomfortable, but uncertainty is often the doorway before revelation. The seed does not understand the flower it is becoming. The river does not see the ocean while moving toward it. The night does not know dawn is already approaching. Yet all three continue. Not because they have guarantees, because something deeper guides them, and something deeper guides you too, even when you doubt it, even when you cannot feel it, even when the evidence seems absent. Your soul has never lost its direction. It only lost sight of the map for a while, and maybe that is why certain moments have felt strangely meaningful recently. A sentence you read, a memory that resurfaced, a song that arrived unexpectedly, a feeling you could not explain. Synchronicities are often whispers, gentle reminders, small messages from life saying, keep going, look closer, trust this. There is more here, because your story is not random. The people who entered it were not random. The lessons were not random. Even the delays were not random. I know that may be difficult to believe when viewed through the eyes of disappointment, but viewed through the eyes of the soul, everything begins to look different. The detour becomes preparation. The waiting becomes refinement. The ending becomes redirection. The loneliness becomes initiation. No, nothing is wasted. Not a single tear, not a single prayer, not a single night you spent wondering if life had forgotten you. Life has not forgotten you. The universe has not misplaced your name. Love has not overlooked your address. And perhaps, most importantly, you have not missed your moment. So many women secretly fear that somehow the most beautiful parts of life happened already, that somehow they arrived too late, that somehow the train left the station while they were busy surviving. But that is not what I see. What I see is a woman whose depth has been earned, a woman whose compassion has been tested, a woman whose wisdom has been forged through experience, a woman becoming capable of receiving a different kind of love. Not a love built on fantasy, a love built on truth. And before that love can fully arrive, there is one relationship that must continue healing, the relationship between you and yourself. That, that sacred reunion is already beginning. Every time you soften towards yourself, every time you forgive yourself, every time you stop measuring your value through old wounds, every time you choose your own heart instead of abandoning it, you are coming home, and home is closer than you think. I am here. You are not walking alone. Something beautiful is on its way. Stay with me. You have traveled far to reach this moment, farther than most people realize. Farther than perhaps even you realize. Because distance is not measured only by miles. Sometimes distance is measured by what the heart has survived, by how many times it chose to continue, by how many nights it carried itself through darkness without applause, by how many disappointments it transformed into wisdom. And when I look at you, I do not see someone who merely lived through years. I see someone who crossed landscapes, inner landscapes, sacred landscapes, places where certainty disappeared and faith had to be born, places where hope became quieter but somehow stronger, places where longing learned how to survive without guarantees. Longing. Let us sit beside that word for a moment, because I think it has been one of your oldest companions, not always obvious, not always loud, but present, a gentle ache beneath daily life, a feeling that something important still waits beyond the horizon, a feeling that your heart was created for more tenderness than it has received, a feeling that some unfinished song still plays softly in the distance. Most people misunderstand longing. They treat it like weakness, like dissatisfaction, like evidence that something is wrong. But longing is often something sacred. Longing is the soul recognizing possibilities before the mind can explain them. Longing is a compass. Longing is memory. Longing is the heart remembering a home it has not fully reached yet. And I think there have been moments when you tried to silence that longing, moments when you told yourself to stop hoping, to stop wanting, to stop imagining, to stop believing. Not because you became cynical, because you became tired. Hope requires energy. Trust requires courage. Dreaming requires vulnerability. And after enough disappointments, even the strongest hearts sometimes whisper, maybe I should stop expecting anything beautiful. Maybe I should stop believing there is more. Maybe this is simply how life is. Every time you tried to close that door completely, something inside you refused. Something remained alive, a tiny spark, a tiny possibility, a tiny voice saying, "Not yet, there is more. Stay a moment longer, because this matters." That voice has never been your enemy. That voice is not naive. That voice is not unrealistic. That voice is your soul, and your soul knows things your fear cannot understand. Fear studies evidence. The soul studies truth. Fear looks backward. The soul looks forward. Fear measures probabilities. The soul recognizes destiny. Not destiny as a fixed script, not destiny as something forced upon you. Destiny as alignment. Destiny as becoming who you were always meant to be. Destiny as the meeting place between your deepest self and your deepest life. I think there is a reason certain dreams never left you. Even after years, even after setbacks, even after heartbreak, even after seasons that seem determined to convince you otherwise. Some dreams survive because they belong to the soul, and soul dreams are stubborn. They do not disappear simply because circumstances become difficult. They wait, patiently, quietly, faithfully, like seeds beneath winter ground. There is another image that keeps coming to me. An empty room, late evening, soft light resting against the walls. Nothing dramatic, nothing extraordinary, just stillness. And somehow that room feels connected to you. Because I think there have been times when loneliness entered your life in exactly that way. Not as chaos, not as tragedy, as stillness, as absence. As a space where something should have been. A chair across from yours. A voice saying your name.
A hand reaching for yours. A presence beside you.
Perhaps nobody knew. Perhaps nobody saw. Because loneliness often wears ordinary clothes. It hides inside successful lives, inside capable women, inside responsible people, inside hearts that continue functioning beautifully while quietly aching. And if you have known that kind of loneliness, I want you to hear me clearly. There is nothing shameful about wanting connection. Nothing shameful about wanting to be chosen. Nothing shameful about wanting someone to look at your soul and say, stay. I am here. You matter to me. You always mattered. Those desires do not make you needy. They make you human. The deepest parts of us were never designed for isolation. We are creatures of connection, creatures of belonging, creatures of love. And perhaps one of the greatest sorrows many women carry is not the absence of love itself, but the absence of being fully seen, being appreciated, being understood, being met. You have spent so much of your life understanding others, reading rooms, reading emotions, reading silences, reading needs. You became fluent in the language of other hearts. But who became fluent in yours? Who sat long enough to learn your fears, your dreams, your hidden tenderness, your private griefs, your secret hopes? Maybe fewer people than there should have been. And that realization can hurt, not because you expect perfection, but because every soul longs to be witnessed, not observed, witnessed, seen in truth, accepted in truth, loved in truth. And perhaps that is why your heart still carries certain longings, because it has always known it was worthy of deeper connection than it received. Not superior connection, not perfect connection, simply real connection, connection that stays, connection that listens, connection that does not require you to become smaller, connection that does not ask you to hide your depth. Stay here with me. There is something important happening. You are beginning to understand that longing itself is not the wound. The wound was believing your longing made you unworthy. The wound was believing your desires were too much. The wound was believing your heart asked for more than it deserved. But what if your heart was right all along? What if the tenderness you seek reflects the tenderness you carry? What if the depth you desire reflects the depth you embody? What if your longing is not evidence of lack, but evidence of truth? A flower turns towards sunlight because sunlight exists. A river moves toward the sea because the sea exists. The soul longs because something meaningful exists beyond the longing. Not always in the form we imagine, not always according to our timelines, but real nonetheless. That realization changes everything. Because suddenly longing stops feeling like punishment. It becomes guidance, a sacred compass pointing toward something your soul recognizes, and perhaps that compass has been trying to guide you home all along. Not only toward another person, toward yourself, toward the parts of you that learn to wait quietly, toward the parts of you that deserve attention, toward the parts of you that deserve love, toward the parts of you that deserve gentleness. You have given so much gentleness away, so much understanding, so much patience, so much forgiveness. What would happen if some of that tenderness finally flowed back toward you? What would happen if you became the safe place you always searched for? What would happen if the voice inside your head became softer, kinder, warmer, more compassionate? What would happen if you stopped speaking to yourself through the language of disappointment and began speaking through the language of devotion? Because there is a devotion your soul has been waiting to receive, not from the outside first, from within, a sacred promise, a quiet vow, a decision to stop abandoning yourself, a decision to stand beside yourself, a decision to become your own companion. That is where healing deepens, not when pain disappears, when love becomes larger than pain. And I believe that is exactly what is happening. Slowly, gently. One breath at a time, one realization at a time, one act of self-compassion at a time. Something inside you is awakening. Something ancient, something beautiful, something that remembers who you were before the world taught you to doubt yourself. And that remembering is opening a door toward a different future, a future where longing no longer feels empty, a future where your heart no longer apologizes for its needs, a future where love is not something you chase, but something you are ready to receive. I am here. You are not walking alone. Something beautiful is on its way. Stay. There is no need to hurry now. The soul unfolds differently than the world does. The world pushes. The soul invites. The world demands answers. The soul offers understanding. The world measures progress by distance traveled. The soul measures progress by truth embraced. And perhaps that is why you have found yourself standing in places where nothing seemed to move while everything was changing. You know those seasons. The seasons when life looked the same from the outside, the same routines, same responsibilities, the same faces, the same familiar walls. Yet beneath the surface, entire worlds were shifting. Entire beliefs were dissolving. Entire versions of yourself were quietly being released. Most transformations happen this way, silently, without announcement, without applause. Like snow melting beneath the first warmth of spring, like tides changing beneath a moon nobody notices, like dawn approaching while the sky still appears dark. You have been changing for longer than you realize, and now something important is happening. The woman who spent years searching for answers outside herself is beginning to hear answers arising from within. That is sacred, because there comes a moment in every soul journey when seeking becomes surrender. Not surrender as defeat, surrender as trust. Trusting that you no longer need to force what belongs to you. Trusting that you no longer need to chase what is meant to stay. Trusting that your worth exists independently of who recognizes it. For so much of your life, You carried things that were never yours to carry. Expectations, judgments, responsibilities that belong to other people. Emotional burdens left behind by those unwilling to face their own pain. You became strong enough to hold everything, and eventually, people began handing you more, not because you deserved more weight, because they sensed your capacity. But capacity can become a trap, especially for women whose hearts naturally care. Can I carry this? And begin asking, you stop asking, can I carry difference? One question honors yourself, the other forgets yourself. And perhaps somewhere along the way, forgetting yourself became normal, not intentional, not dramatic, just familiar. You learned how to make space for everyone else. You learned how to accommodate, how to adjust, how to understand, how to forgive, how to remain patient. And while these qualities are beautiful, they become painful when they are not balanced with self-honor. Because compassion without boundaries becomes exhaustion. Understanding without reciprocity becomes loneliness. Giving without receiving becomes depletion. Love without self-love becomes sacrifice. And sacrifice was never meant to become your permanent address. Stay here a little longer. There is something your heart needs to hear. You are allowed to stop carrying what was never yours. You are allowed to release old guilt, old obligations, old stories, old disappointments, old identities. You are allowed to put them down, not because they never mattered, because they have already taught what they came to teach. There is an image I keep returning to. A woman standing beside a window at twilight, not looking outward, not looking outward, not looking inward, simply standing between worlds, watching the day disappear, watching night arrive, watching light and darkness share the same sky. And I think that image reflects something happening inside you. You are standing between who you have been and who you are becoming. Between survival and trust. Between fear and truth. Between old patterns and new possibilities. The space between identities can feel uncomfortable because the old self no longer fits. Yet the new self is still emerging. But do not mistake uncertainty for failure. A butterfly looks nothing like the caterpillar that came before it, yet both belong to the same story. Transformation always creates temporary confusion, not because something is wrong, because something is changing. And perhaps one of the deepest truths you are beginning to understand is this. You do not need to become someone else to receive love. You only need to become more fully yourself. For years, perhaps, part of you believed love would arrive if you perfected yourself, if you became more patient, more understanding, more accommodating, more giving, more useful, more impressive, more whatever seemed necessary at the time. But real love has never asked for perfection. Real love recognizes truth. Real love responds to authenticity. Real love sees. And the more you return to your own truth, the easier it becomes for truth to find you. That includes the truth of relationships, the truth of belonging, the truth of connection, the truth of destiny. Because destiny is not merely who enters your life. Destiny is who you become when you stop betraying yourself. That is where everything changes. Not outside first, inside. The outer world follows, the inner world leads. And I think your inner world has been preparing for this moment for a long time, preparing to stop settling, preparing to stop doubting, preparing to stop shrinking, preparing to stop apologizing for your depth, preparing to stop making yourself smaller so others can feel comfortable. Your soul has grown tired of hiding, not because it wants attention, because it wants truth. Truth is simpler than performance. Truth is lighter than pretense. Truth is kinder than self-rejection. And the closer you move toward truth, the more peace begins to appear. Not because life becomes perfect, because resistance begins to dissolve. You stop fighting yourself. You stop negotiating with your own worth. You stop asking permission to exist fully. And in that space, something extraordinary happens. You begin seeing yourself differently, not through the eyes of old wounds, not through the eyes of people who misunderstood you, not through the eyes of rejection, but through the eyes of wisdom, through the eyes of compassion, through the eyes of your own soul. The soul sees differently. The soul does not measure your value by outcomes. The soul does not measure your value by relationship status. The soul does not measure your value by age. The soul does not measure your value by achievements. The soul sees essence, presence, beauty, spirit. And when I look at you through that lens, I see someone remarkable. Not because you are flawless. You are flawless. Because you are real. Because despite everything you have experienced, your heart still remains open. Perhaps more cautious. Perhaps more discerning. But still open. That matters. More than you know. Many people survive pain by closing. You survived pain while continuing to love. That is rare. And it is one of the reasons your story is not ending where fear once predicted it would. Because an open heart remains available to miracles. Not dramatic miracles, soul miracles. Unexpected understandings. Unexpected peace. Unexpected connections. Unexpected joy. The kind of joy that arrives quietly. The kind that feels like finally exhaling after holding your breath for years. And I believe that exhale is getting closer, not because life suddenly changes overnight, because you are changing, because you are releasing, because you are surrendering old burdens, because you are learning to trust what your soul has known all along, that you were never abandoned, never forgotten, never overlooked by life. You were being guided, even through confusion, even through waiting, even through heartbreak, especially through heartbreak. The road was never punishment. It was preparation, and now you are beginning to see why. I am here. You are not walking alone. Something beautiful is on its way. Stay. You have come too far to turn away from yourself now. Can you feel it? Not as certainty, not as complete understanding, but as a subtle shift, a quiet movement beneath everything, like the earth changing beneath roots long before flowers appear, like the ocean changing tides before the shoreline notices, like the first hint of dawn before the horizon brightens. Something within you is no longer willing to believe the old stories. The stories that said your worth depended on being needed. The stories that said you had to earn affection. The stories that said your tenderness was a weakness. The stories that convinced you that being chosen by others was more important than choosing yourself. Those stories have carried you long enough, and perhaps they served a purpose once. Perhaps they helped you survive. Perhaps they helped you make sense of pain. Perhaps they helped you endure seasons that felt impossible. But survival stories are not meant to become permanent identities. There comes a moment when the soul gently asks, "Are you ready to live beyond the wound?" Not deny it, not erase it, not pretend it never happened. Simply stop allowing it to define who you are, because you are so much more than what hurt you, so much more than what left, so much more than what disappointed you, so much more than what never arrived. There is a woman inside you who has been waiting patiently to be fully seen, not the woman everyone else knows. The deeper one, the truest one, the one who existed before self-doubt became familiar, before heartbreak became educational, before responsibility became heavy, before survival became a daily discipline. She is still there. And lately, I think she has been trying to reach you. Perhaps through moments of unexpected peace. Perhaps through sudden clarity. Perhaps through a growing unwillingness to tolerate what diminishes you. Perhaps through a quiet desire to finally place yourself among the things you care for. Not above others. Not below others. Alongside them. Equal in worth. Equal in importance. Equal in tenderness. Stay here for a moment, because this realization changes everything. You have spent much of your life extending grace to people who were struggling, understanding people who were confused, forgiving people who were wounded, seeing potential in people who could not yet see it in themselves. You became an expert at compassion. Yet somewhere along the way, you forgot to offer that same compassion inward. You held yourself to standards you never imposed upon anyone else. You forgave others more easily than yourself. You understood others more readily than yourself. You were patient with others while becoming impatient with your own healing, and your soul noticed, not with judgment, only with sadness, because the woman who deserved your kindness most often received the least of it, you. But something beautiful is happening now. The distance between you and yourself is shrinking. The conversations inside your heart are changing. The way you look at your past is changing. The way you look at your future is changing. Most importantly, the way you look at yourself is changing. You are beginning to see that your life was never evidence against your worth. Your struggles were never evidence against your worth. Your loneliness was never evidence against your worth. Your waiting was never evidence against your worth. Your worth existed before every experience and remains untouched by every experience. Imagine a diamond resting beneath years of dust. The dust may obscure it. The dust may hide it. The dust may convince someone it has lost its value. But the diamond never changes. Its nature remains intact. Its beauty remains intact. Its worth remains intact. Only perception changes, and perhaps that is what is happening inside you. The dust is settling. Old beliefs are loosening. Old fears are fading. Old illusions are dissolving. And beneath them, your true value is becoming visible again. Not created, revealed. That distinction matters, because healing is rarely about becoming worthy. Healing is remembering that you already were. There is another image I want to share with you, a garden. Not perfect, not symmetrical, not designed for display, a living garden. Some flowers blooming, some still growing, some seasons ending, others beginning. And when I look at your soul, that is what I sometimes see, not a finished masterpiece, a living garden, beautiful because it continues becoming, beautiful because it continues growing, beautiful because life still moves through it. There are parts of you blooming right now, parts that were dormant for years: confidence, self respect, discernment, trust, joy, not loud joy, not performative joy, quiet joy, the kind that arrives when a person finally stops fighting themselves, the kind that arrives when acceptance replaces judgment, the kind that arrives when a woman begins to feel safe within her own presence. That safety is precious because once you feel safe within yourself, you stop settling for situations that feel unsafe. You stop negotiating with disrespect. You stop explaining your value to people committed to misunderstanding it. You stop shrinking. You stop performing. You stop abandoning yourself for the comfort of others. And when that happens, life begins responding differently.
Not because the universe suddenly changes.
Because your energy changes. Your boundaries change, your choices change, your expectations change, the relationships you allow change. Everything begins shifting, not through force, through alignment. Alignment is one of the most powerful forces in existence. When who you are matches what you believe, when what you desire matches what you deserve, when your heart and your actions move in the same direction, alignment creates openings, opportunities, connections, miracles. And I think your soul has been moving toward alignment for a long time. Long before you consciously recognized it, every disappointment taught discernment. Every ending taught clarity. Every delay taught patience. Every challenge revealed strength. Nothing was wasted. Nothing. Even the experiences you would never choose again. Even the tears you wish you had never cried. Even the nights that felt unbearably lonely. They all contributed to the woman emerging now. A woman who understands herself more deeply. A woman who honors herself more fully. A woman who no longer seeks permission to exist authentically. That woman is powerful, not because she controls everything, because she trusts herself. And self-trust is one of the most attractive energies in the world. Not merely romantically, spiritually, emotionally, existentially. Life responds to self-trust. People respond to self-trust. Destiny responds to self-trust. Because self-trust signals readiness. Readiness to receive. Readiness to choose differently. Readiness to stop repeating old cycles. Readiness to welcome something new. And I believe you are closer to that readiness than you realize. Closer than you have ever been. The future is not asking you to become someone else. The future is asking you to become more completely yourself. And that future is already beginning with every act of self-respect, with every act of self-compassion, with every act of self-honor, with every moment you choose truth over fear. You are becoming the woman your younger self needed, the woman your future self already knows, the woman your soul has always been trying to reveal. And she is beautiful, far more beautiful than she knows. I am here. You are not walking alone. Something beautiful is on its way. Stay. Dot. Just a little longer. You have arrived at a place many souls spend their entire lives searching for. Not perfection, not certainty, not the ending of every question. Something deeper. Something deeper, a return. Return to yourself. And perhaps that is the truth that has been waiting quietly beneath everything we have shared. The truth about your life, the truth about your heart, the truth about your journey, and perhaps even the truth about your feelings for her. Because when we speak about love, we often believe we are speaking only about another person. Yet love is rarely that simple. Love reveals. Love illuminates. Love uncovers. Love brings hidden things into the light. Sometimes another person enters our story not only so we can love them, but so we can finally discover ourselves. And when I look at everything you have carried, everything you have survived, you have hoped for, I see a woman standing at the edge of a new beginning, not because someone arrived to rescue her, because she finally arrived for herself. There is something beautiful about that, something sacred, something that changes the entire landscape of a life. For so long, perhaps, you searched for a voice outside yourself that would finally say, you are enough. You are beautiful. You are worthy. You are lovable. You matter. Stay. But what if the voice you have been waiting for has been within you all along? What if your soul has been whispering those words for years? Patiently, tenderly, faithfully, waiting for the noise to quiet enough for you to hear them. Because your soul has never doubted your worth. Never. Your fears doubted, your wounds doubted, your disappointments doubted. But your soul never did. Your soul always knew. It always knew you were carrying beauty. It always knew you were carrying wisdom. It always knew you were carrying love. Even when you could not see it. Even when others could not see it. Even when life temporarily obscured it. Stay here. Because there is something I want you to understand with your whole heart. You were never behind. Not once. Not in love, not in healing, not in growth, not in life. You only compared your path to paths that were never yours. You only measured yourself against timelines that did not belong to your soul. But your soul has its own timing, its own seasons, its own unfolding. And everything that happened brought you here. Every joy, every sorrow, every goodbye, every lesson, every unanswered prayer, every unexpected blessing, every lonely evening, every hopeful morning, every trembling moment, when you wondered whether life still held something beautiful for you. All of it mattered. All of it contributed. All of it became part of the tapestry. Nothing was wasted, not one breath, not one tear, not one heartbeat. And now, when I look at you, I see something different than I saw when we first began. I see less fear, less urgency, less need to chase answers. I see more softness, more trust, more truth, more space. The kind of space that allows new things to enter, the kind of space that allows love to breathe. Because love cannot thrive inside a heart crowded by old battles. Love thrives where peace begins to grow. And peace is growing within you. Not perfectly, not permanently, but genuinely. You are learning that peace is not the absence of longing. Peace is trusting longing without being consumed by it. Peace is not having every answer. Peace is trusting yourself while the answers arrive. Peace is not controlling the future. Peace is believing that your life remains worthy regardless of what tomorrow brings. That kind of peace is powerful. It changes everything. And perhaps that is why destiny feels closer now. Not because destiny, say, suddenly appeared. Because you are finally able to recognize destiny is often quieter than people imagine. It rarely arrives with fanfare. It arrives through alignment, through readiness, through becoming, through 1,000 small shifts that eventually create a new reality. Yeah. And you have been making those shifts. Every act of healing, every act of courage, every act of forgiveness, every act of self-respect, every act of choosing yourself. They have all been preparing the ground, preparing the garden, preparing the heart, preparing the life. There is an image I want to leave with you. A path at dawn. The world still quiet. The sky painted with the first hints of light. The air carrying that mysterious feeling that exists only in the moments before a new day fully arrives. And there you are, walking, not rushing, not searching desperately, not carrying everything anymore. Simply walking, aware, present, open, but trusting. The woman who once feared she had missed her moment now understands something profound. The moment was never way behind her. The moment was becoming her. Every experience was shaping the very person capable of receiving what comes next. And what comes next does not need to be forced. It does not need to be chased. It does not need to be earned through suffering. What belongs to you will recognize you. What is meant for you will meet you. What resonates with your soul will find its way into your life. Not always quickly, not always predictably, but naturally, just as rivers find oceans, just as dawn finds morning, just as flowers find sunlight. And perhaps this is the deepest truth of all. The love you have searched for was never separate from the love you were becoming. The tenderness you longed to receive was teaching you how deeply you could feel. The connection you desired was preparing you for a deeper connection with yourself. And now, standing where you stand, you are no longer merely waiting for life to begin. You are living it. You are no longer merely hoping to be chosen. You are choosing yourself. You are no longer merely surviving. You are awakening. You are no longer defined by what left. You are defined by what remains. And what remains is extraordinary. Your courage remains. Your kindness remains. Your depth remains. Your wisdom remains. Your beauty remains. Your hope remains. Most importantly, your heart remains. Still capable of wonder. Still capable of trust. Still capable of love. And because your heart remains, possibility remains. The story is not over. The story is opening. The future is not empty. The future is waiting. And somewhere beyond what you can currently see, predict, beyond what you can currently predict, beyond what you can currently understand, life is arranging pieces you have not yet discovered. Not because you earned them, not because you suffered enough, not because you finally became perfect, simply because you are alive, simply because you are worthy, simply because your soul belongs here. So take a slow breath. Let it reach the places that have carried so much for so long. Let it soften the parts of you that have remained vigilant. Let it remind you that you no longer need to fight every moment. You can trust, you can rest, you can receive, you can become. And if ever you forget, return to this truth. You were never walking alone. You were always becoming. And something beautiful has been making its way toward you from the very beginning. I am here. You are not walking alone. Something beautiful is on its way.